Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast, where there's a classic weekend on the agenda because we've got the Irish 1,000 and 2,000 guineas, not in that order. We start with the 2,000 on Saturday and then we move on to the 1,000 on Sunday on what's going to be testing ground at the Curragh. We've got a great team amassed for you. That involves Steve Jones. Hello, sir. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Steve Jones in his tiny house, as has been commented on before. We've got Donn McClean. I realised when I said that it just sounded offensive. We've got Donn McClean with us with his. Well, how close to the Curragh are you, Don? I don't know this. Are you a long way away?
I'm in Wicklow, Tom, so not so far as the crow flies. I'd say like it takes probably about 40 minutes to get to the Curragh from here, so not so far. But yeah, lots of rain here, lots of rain. I think the Curragh probably even had more rain than we had. We're kind of over the mountains from the Curragh, so yeah, I would talk about that. But yeah, lots of rain at the Curragh this morning.
Okay, well maybe if it's off at the Curragh, could they restage it in your garden?
Yeah, probably. You could probably get a 6 or 6.5 furlong race in our garden, but outside the middle distance races wouldn't work, I'd say.
Yeah, fair enough. And Adele, how's things with you? I tell you what, we're talking to Weather Watch up in. I know you're not too far from York. We've got a race from there. Haydock's a little bit of a stretch, but it's going to be testing ground everywhere, isn't it?
It is. I mean, York have got a fantastic drainage system. They've got 22 miles worth of drain, so it usually holds up quite well there. I know when we lost a load of the Yorkshire fixtures there, not last year before, they managed to still race. So I've no doubts about it. It'll be on. It'll just be soft.
Yeah, fair enough. And Haydock hopefully will be okay. We'll see. We'll get to that. What we're going to do is we're going to go 3 races from the Curragh in a group, first of all, from Saturday or for Saturday. Then we'll get the UK action. Then we've got the 2 Group 1s that we're going to preview on Sunday from the Curragh as well. Hopefully it'll all go ahead. They are inspecting tomorrow morning at 7:30, I believe. We've had a really good time of it on the pod of late, which has been excellent. York was really good for us. Let me tell you about the offer that is ongoing. Obviously relates to you getting the best value and the best odds, and with the fact that you can get 0% commission on all sports for 30 days with Matchbook. This is for new customers only. Then you're guaranteeing yourself those best odds because there's no 2.5% commission at all. 0% commission on all sports for 30 days, but you must use the bonus code INSIGHTS. It's for new customers only, 18 plus. Be gamble aware. That is on all sports. Right, high time we get stuck into the preview. So first of all, we've got the Tattersalls Irish 2,000 guineas, and I'll run you through the prices as things stand. It's the Newmarket guineas, which seems to hold sway as far as the market goes. So you've got 4.0 Lucky Vega, 5.0 Wembley. Poetic Flair is 6.0. Fascinating. He's making that quick turnaround if he shows up on testing ground. Van Gogh is 7.0. Labarossa 9.0, as is Max Swinney. And then we're into double figures. Donn McClean is... I quite like an open guineas, and it's got that feel to it. Which horse are you supporting and why?
Yeah, look, there's so many different strands to it, aren't there, Tom? Like Lucky Vega, before Newmarket, you kind of thought a mile might stretch him. Well, I did. Jessica Harrington obviously didn't, nor did Shane Foley, and he saw out the race well. He was only beaten whatever a short head and a neck, and the 3 of them, the first 3 pulled nicely clear. I just worry the ground and the trip, it's like very soft ground over a mile. I just think he has to step forward again. He probably has to stay even better on Saturday than he did at Newmarket, and I think he might drift. Actually, look, he's a talented horse, but his big win, his big performances were over 6 furlongs last year. So I just worry about him as favourite on the ground at the trip. Poetic Flair, as you say, fascinating. He won the Guineas, got beaten in the French Guineas, coming back here as Finch Gael Bio did in 2007, also trained by Jim Bolger, won the English Guineas, got beaten in the French Guineas, won the Irish Guineas. And it was a little bit different then. The French Guineas, there was a week between the English Guineas and the French Guineas, and 2 weeks to the Irish Guineas. It's the other way around this time, 2 weeks to the French Guineas, and only 6 days since last weekend. But Jim Bolger seems to think that he's in really good form, and he's a horse who seems to take his racing really well. Interesting, I was just chatting to Jim Bolger last week about him, and he said that he actually put on weight from Newmarket. He weighed a kilo heavier when he came back from Newmarket, having won the Guineas, than he was before he left. He said he'd never known a horse to do that before, so it's obviously a tough horse, but he has to bounce back. I like Wembley. Like he's got a really good profile for the race. Okay, he has to bounce back from the 2000 Guineas where he was well beaten, but he was beaten from a long way out, and Ryan Moore just wasn't hard on him once his winning chance had gone. His his runs last year were very good. He won his maiden on heavy ground at Roscommon, so that shouldn't be an issue for him. He ran a big race in the Dewhurst when he finished second behind St Mark's Basilica, his stable companion, and he had to do a lot of running on his own that day. He was kind of on the far side away from the stands rail, and I thought he did well to get as close as he did to St Mark's Basilica, who obviously went and won the French Guineas last weekend, so that's strong form. And we know before, like the Aidan O'Brien horses, they can come forward for a run. We've seen it on a couple of occasions with Khartoum and Sir Lucan this season, and he did it with Power and Roderick O'Connor 9 or 10 years ago, who were both well beaten in the 2000 Guineas, and who actually, I think coincidentally, both finished second in the Dewhurst Stakes, like Wembley did. So lots of parallels there. I just think he'll come forward. He'll handle the ground. We know that he goes well at the track, and the fact that Ryan Moore has chosen to stay loyal to him in front of Van Gogh and Battleground, I think that's significant as well. So yeah, I think Wembley is a play there.
I just want to come back to you with a question because it relates to my selection. So I'm done putting up Jim Bolger's second string because I think there has to be a huge chance that on heavy ground, Poetic Flare doesn't line up and he doesn't risk him on the quick turnaround on very testing ground. If that happens, Kevin Manning will switch, you would imagine, to Max Swinney. And I think the 9.0 about him will be long gone. But am I barking up the wrong tree thinking there's a chance Poetic Flare won't turn up, Don?
I think he might run all right. Yeah, there's a chance he'll come out, but he does have form on soft ground. I know Jim Bolger was saying after France that he didn't really handle the ground, but he does have form on soft ground. But I wouldn't put, even with Rory, like Rory Cleary's a very good rider. McSweeney, like we saw what he did last year in the Doncaster race in the Burton Futurity, and he had a nasal discharge after the Darrenstown, so you can allow him that. And the fact that Jim Bolger's happy to run, like he's a very talented horse, and he goes on soft ground. We know that he stays well, and yeah, he could be a bit underrated.
I think he's good in his own right, but it's more. It's. I think there's a chance you might be able to, with match, but guarantee yourself a free bet before the off if you take that 9.0 now. That's my hope anyway. So that's the way I want to play it personally. Right, let's carry on with the Wembley love-in, Adele. What do you want to add to Don's thoughts? Or you have to. We'd love to hear you, Adele. You have to unmute yourself. I think that's the first one Adele's done. Yes. That's great news. Welcome to the unmuting gang, Adele.
Sorry. I was saying that I don't really have that much to add on what Don said already. He's got a lovely profile. He did very little wrong last season, and I don't think he really handled the downhill at Newmarket with it being so quick. He's got form on soft ground. He's damning Princess. All her form was on soft ground as well. So I think that'll be a big plus for him. But previously to him, I was kind of looking at Poetic Flare and I was thinking, do you really maybe want a horse that's got proven fitness already this season? If it is going to be testing conditions, he's going to be fit. Obviously, he's already ran a few times this season, but whether it's been maybe one too many, it might have just taken it out of him, but he will be fit. But I like Wembley. I like him as a horse. He's a lovely individual. And I think given the fact that it's going to be so testing, and you're obviously going to look for a horse that has got form on soft, and he ticks that box.
Yeah, he was well beaten, Steve, in the Guineas. But as Don said, Ryan keeps the faith with him, and that St Mark's Basilica form from the back end looks pretty good now. You're with Wembley?
Yeah, I think Adele said what I was going to say, that the combination of the ground and the track at Newmarket just didn't suit him at all. I think he'd been much better on soft ground, so I think he's got a chance. The other one I like was Monasib, Monasib, can't even say it right, who I think returning to a mile will help. He was second to High Definition in the Beresford last year, and then was third to Poetic Flare in the 2000 Guineas trial at Leopardstown. So on soft ground over a mile, I think he will run well. So that would be my two.
Monasib as well at fair old price. You get some 17.0 about Monasib, so I assume that'll be win and place for you, Steve. The last thing on this, because it ties into the 1000 as well. Both my selections in the race is going to be drawn one, Don. Is that a good or a bad thing?
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. The mile at the Curragh, they have a round mile at the Curragh as well, over which they run the Beresford Stakes, but the straight mile, the Guineas mile, it's not actually straight. There's a little bit of a kink in it, but on soft ground, they'll probably come up the middle. I wouldn't have thought that one would be either way, negative or positive. I think, especially over the kind of the nearly straight miles, they'll probably, if the ground is very soft, they'll probably verge towards the center of the track, and yeah, that should be fine, I would have thought.
Gotcha. Right, let's kick on to we're going to go back in time now. We started with the feature. We'll go back to the Greenland Stakes, 245 at the Curragh. It's over 6 furlongs, and Glenn Shiel, who won the champion sprint on his last start, is 3.0. You've got 3.5 for Sonalia. Speaking Colours is 6.0. Laugh a Minute 10.0, 11.0 Summer Hand, and then bigger prices starting off with Make a Challenge. First of all, Adele, I'll come to you just to discuss the British angle if you can. And do you think Glenn Shiel is the most likely winner here, and would you back him? It's happened again, Adele.
It's just not my day today, is it?
Like buses, 2 times on the bounce. Go on.
I was talking to Holly a couple of weeks ago about Glenn Shiel, and she said he's going really well. And I think he's very hard to look past. You know, he's a fantastic horse. What he achieved last season was great, and he's got the course form. Ground, I can't see being a problem at all. I think he's the only Group 1 winner in the field, so he's. I can see why he's favourite, and I can see why he's the price he is. But I don't think he's badly priced, personally. Definitely having a little bit on him, and Summer Gahand, who's in the form of his life this season. It was obviously contesting in all the big handicaps last season. He just seems to suit going up in grade, and especially at Newmarket, you kind of think, oh, you're kind of getting down as being an out-and-out handicapper, but he's not. We kind of thought he would run better in the big fields, but he's actually running better when he's up in class, when the pace is probably a little bit more stronger. And like I said, he's in the form of his life. He seems to be getting better and better with age, and he wasn't far behind Starman at York, who looks a serious prospect for this season. So I can't see why he wouldn't put up another good performance, and I'd have a little small place bet on him.
On Summergand as well. Glenn Shiel in the main. Jonesy, it feels like, the Brits have had an absolute bashing from the Irish across both codes over all trips, but the sprinters, sometimes when they go over to Ireland, the Brits can just have the edge, and they've got a decent record in this race. So who would you support, if anyone?
I thought there was enough reasons to take Glenn Shiel on, even though he's really the Group 1 performer, whether you trust that Ascot form on Champions Day. But then again, it was very bad ground that he's going to get. I thought Sonalia wasn't too far behind, having finished a neck behind Glenn Shiel in the Curragh last season, and obviously did win first time out as well last year, so you'd hope, but was a long way behind Glenn Shiel at Ascot. It was sort of a token effort, Sonalia, at the prices more than anything.
I am with her as well, and I'll hold my hands up. It's mainly because somebody who I trust has suggested that she's well worth supporting based upon encouraging signs at home, and that's it really. I wanted to be probably against Glenn Shiel, although he's just eased out a touch to an interesting price, I suppose, but purely because I just worry about every race on Champions Day, really. It just concerns me slightly. For all that the ground might be very similar here, but it was very holding and very testing that day. She was behind him, but if you go back through her form prior to that, it's pretty good. She's 1/7 on testing ground as well. I'd want to give her another chance. I'd struggle to back Speaking Colours probably here. So Sonalia for me, I wanted to be against the favourite, and apparently she's doing lots of good things at home. Donn.
Yeah, look, I think it's an interesting race, Tom. There wasn't much. There was only a neck between the two of them when they met at the Curragh back in August last year in the Phoenix Stakes, and that was on much better ground than the ground they're going to encounter. But Glenn Shiel, as you said, went and won the Champions race on soft ground. Sonalia, she's got form from before on soft ground when she was with Michael Halford. And interestingly, she's since joined Paddy Toomey. She's improved, and Paddy Toomey he just does so well with a relatively small group of horses. He's a very, very astute trainer. And interesting, Moidlair Stud have bought her since last season, so she's going to race in the Moidlair Stud colours for the first time. So look, she's a talented filly. She's a progressive filly. She goes on soft ground. She goes at the track. I just think Glenn Shiel probably, he has to give her £6, but I think he probably has that in hand. You know, the fact there's only a neck between them, but I think that's reflected in the prices. Like, she's not a mad price. I wouldn't put you off her, and she's a lovely filly, but I think she just has to improve a little.
I think Don had pretty much finished up his thoughts there. Oh, you're back. Yeah, I take that point, Don, that, yeah, she probably does have to improve. I just hope that she is. Glen Shield, then, Don, for you?
Yeah, I think he's the most likely winner, Tom. I think he's the right favourite.
Lovely job, Glen Shield, for you. Let's move on to the 355. So we're going to after the Guineas now, which is the Landwades Stud Stakes, 355 at the Curragh on Saturday. Johnny Murtaugh's star mare Champs-Élysées, she heads the betting currently, and she is a warm order as well, 2.1. Valeria Messalina is 4.0. Opponent Place 7.0. Too Soon to Panic 9.0. And then we're into the double figure prices. James, I'm going to come to you first if I can.
Yeah, like Don says, I think Champs-Élysées is a really nice progressive horse, but I was really impressed with Opponent Plays winning a Group 3 at Naas in quite soft ground, and I thought that her attitude was spot on that day. So I know she's got to improve to get the better of Champs-Élysées, but she is getting the £3 off that filly. So yeah, I thought Opponent Plays would go pretty well.
Opponent Plays at 7.0 in this 7-runner field. Adele and I are sitting this one out. Couldn't find a bet in this, so we'll kick on through to Don's thoughts for the Landwades Stud Stakes.
Yeah.
Can you see past Johnny's horse?
No, I can't really, Tom. No, like, she's an even money shot, but look, she got beaten last time in the Atazi Stakes, but that was over 7 furlongs, her first run back up to a mile on soft ground. Like, you know, her performance at Leopardstown in the Matron Stakes was fantastic, and the fact that it was Johnny Murtaugh's first Group 1 winner was obviously added to it. Again, she's changed colours. She's in Terry Yoshida's colours now. We know them from a little while ago. But yeah, I thought there was enough in her seasonal debut to give encouragement that she can progress again, and you know, the fact that she's remaining in training, obviously, as a 4-year-old, even though she's a Group 1 winner. So yeah, I think she's the most likely winner. Valeria Messalina, she's an interesting filly as well. She ran a massive race last year in the Oak Tree Stakes over 7 furlongs at Goodwood. She was only just beaten by one master. I suppose she would have been a little bit fortunate if she'd won one master. It took her a while to get out, and she quickened up well whenever she did get out. But I think there's more to come from Valeria Messalina this season. Maybe not on ground as soft as the ground she's going to encounter on Saturday. And I fully agree with Stephen Opponent Plays. She's again a progressive filly who handled the ground well the last day. So they're the first 3 in the market, and I think they're in the right order.
Yeah, and Johnny Murtaugh, look, he's not kicked off this year quite as he did last year, but he's not exactly. I mean, slowing down would be harsh. I think he's just had a fantastic last couple of seasons. Anything to add to the Curragh action before we move on to Saturday's stuff at Haydock? Lovely stuff. Let's move on to the 3 o'clock at Haydock. This is the Silver Bowl Handicap. Now, it's heavy at the moment at Haydock. They've got more rain on the way. So, I mean, it's going to be testing. They might well have a look tomorrow as well. As it stands at the moment, 3.25 for Radeborg, handicap debutant on very testing ground. Wob is next in the betting at 7.0. 7.5 is Heights of Abraham, 8.0 for Tia Delina, 9.0 Nebulosa. Then we get into the double figures. The entire panel are being incredibly boring and all going for the same horse, having not had a chat between them about this. But you've got the reason why Wob. I have to say it like that. I have to go deeper, like a DJ. Why Wob is called Wob, Adele?
Well, I thought I did really well, and I Googled it, and I thought it was something to do with DJing, you know, like wob, but it wasn't, because when we interviewed the owners on ITV,
like what?
He said it was because they were on holiday and his wife was so drunk and she was trying to find their room, and they were asking what room she was in, and I think it was like 111 or something, and it come out wob. So that wasn't quite the story I was expecting, but
yeah. I like it that they called a horse Wob as a result after a drunk wife. Why do you want to support him, Adele?
Well, I thought I was quite taken with him at York. I thought it was a very good performance. You know, that was a competitive handicap. That was over 7, so I do have my little reservations over a mile. But you know, he sees out the 7 really well. He looked like he was a horse that still had a little bit in hand. So I think he's quite progressive. I think he's definitely one to follow for the rest of the season as well. If he doesn't like the ground on Saturday, then still have him in your notebooks. One horse who will like the ground though is Heights of Abraham, and I was thinking maybe like he won over a mile 2 at Ripon. So maybe do you want a horse with a little bit more stamina that will come into play if the ground's going to be so testing? He won't mind the ground at all. He's very strong at the finish. So I think I'm going to have both of them on my side, and both around about 7.0, 7.5. So I think the 2 of them, I'll have 2 little win bets on them.
Before we move on the team wob, I'll echo that with what you said with Heights of Abraham. Hasn't been reassessed yet. That'll happen on Tuesday, but has got a £6 penalty for that success at Ripon. And I remember a few weeks ago, I was sat in the Racing TV studio with Dave Nevison, and the rain was falling down, and we were going, we've got to be backing heavy ground horses here, and sort of reassessing our selections, and didn't. But I just think you're at Haydock, you've got to have a horse who's got form with a fair bit of juice in the ground. And this horse is 2 of the last 3 successes have come on soft ground, and the one before that came on good to soft. And the fact that he stays further as well, I think he's a fair bet in this 10-runner field, win and place at that price that you mentioned. The Heights of Abraham for me. Steve, wob.
Yeah, I love this race, and I think it's quite sad the way that it's lost its kind of prestige. It's 50% higher. The prize money was 50% higher 10 years ago, and hence we've only got 10 runners when it used to be a great big field. But wob, it looks a good opportunity for him. He won obviously very easily at York over 7 furlongs. I don't think a mile is a problem. It's going to be dreadful ground, but he has gone pretty well in soft ground. It's going to be worse than that, which it's hard to know whether he'll handle, but he's a very progressive horse, and he's gone up £8 for that win at York last week at the Dante meeting, and that seems more than fair to me. I think he was got a lot more to offer. There's a few interesting ones in there like Radebarg and Nebulosa, but I think wob is the equal of them, even though he looks more exposed. I think in heavy ground, you want a horse with experience and more experience than less experience, and that's what he's got. So, yeah, I think he's got a great chance. Wob.
And
Don, you can complete the trio of shouts for the wobs.
Complete the treble wob. Yeah. He was just seriously impressive the last. Like, he's got form on soft ground at the end of last season at Newmarket. He was very impressive the last day. Like, I kind of thought that Northern Express was going to get the better of him, but when Tom Marquand just kicked him on, he stayed on really well, and it was easy ground at York over 7 furlongs. I do have a little bit of a concern about a mile on very soft ground, because you're kind of thinking 7 furlongs on soft ground and ridden aggressively, that's his absolute optimum, and ideally at York. Or a track that suits a forward-going horse like Sandown maybe. But I think there's enough in him and enough progression and enough potential for him to progress again to cope with, maybe some optimal conditions together with an £8 hike, because his run at Newmarket earlier in the season it's working out really well. Crossford was second. He won against Ince Bullis, who won it, ran a big race in the Heron Stakes at Sandown last night. So there's just a solidity to his form that suggests he still could be a well handicapped horse on a mark of 88.
That's the 3 shouts for wob then, and one from Adele for Heights of Abraham, who I agree with as well. Right, we move on to the Sandy Lane Stakes. This is the 335 at Haydock. Prices as follows. Dragon Symbol for Archie Watson and Adam McNamara is 3.5, 7.5 for Isabella Giles. St Lawrence with the cheek pieces on for the first time is the same price, 7.5. 8.0 for the Lear Jet, and Method Mujbar 9.0. Light Refrain is 9.5. Then we get stuck into the bigger prices. Again, a frightening amount of agreement here. I thought I was being pretty shrewd in going for Mujbar, a horse who has won on testing ground. Both of his wins, in particular Newbury at the back end of last year, that was soft ground. Now, I know he's got a little bit to find at the weights, but I wouldn't be too harsh on him based upon the run in the Greenlands Stakes last time, when he can be a free-going horse, but he was last time. And a bit like his sire, Muhara, I really like the drop back in trip. He's definitely got enough pace for 6 furlongs, particularly on this sort of ground. So I thought in this, we got 10 in the field, win and place. I thought that was a really shrewd shout. And then lo and behold, Adele and Jonesy have found him as well. So go on, what do you want to add, Adele?
Not really much, to be honest. What I like about him is the way he is able to make up quite rapid ground in such soft conditions, which definitely will stand him in good stead on Saturday. So that's what I like mainly about him. I think you want a horse that just is just a mud lover, really, and goes through it easily. And he's the horse. I thought I was being quite shrewd when I picked him out. So I think we've done really well here. I think we found a good one, and not a bad price either.
Yeah, particularly when he wins, we'll be laughing.
Yeah.
Jonesy, what do you want to add to Mujbar?
I just surprised to start with all the rain, and looking at the TV now at the latest race at Haydock, it's going to be desperate ground. And I'm surprised his price is held up, because it was equally as bad at Newbury when he won the Horace Hill. And I thought the good thing about that race was that nothing went right for him. He sort of got messed around at the start, and he was further back. He came from right off the pace, like Adele said, and he's got the gears to do that. But I don't think that's how he'll be ridden in the Sandy Lane. I think he'll be a lot closer to the pace, and he has got the gears to do that over 6 furlongs, especially in testing ground. And I thought the interesting thing as well that might be putting people off is the fact that Dane O'Neill's riding him. But Dane O'Neill gets on exceptionally well with this horse, and he was on board when he won both his races. And although Jim Crowley took over last time in the Greenham, he, like you say, he was way too keen. And I think with that fizz knocked out of him, he'll come on for that run. The drop in trip and the ground is the key thing. I think he's a really good bet, I think.
Look out. Don, you are looking elsewhere, probably sensibly.
Can't disagree. Can't disagree with all of that. You can't go in the face of Bushbar. But it's a hell of a race, isn't it? Like, you've got a Norfolk Stakes winner in there. You've got Isabella Giles, a Rockfell Stakes winner, who I thought foolishly could have been a Guineas filly this year. She's dropping down in trip again, so she's interesting. Back down to 6 furlongs from 7. And St. Lawrence against Rohan again. I thought Rohan, the stiff track at Ascot, obviously helped him the last day. St. Lawrence, I thought, went on and won his race, and then just got mugged close home by Rohan in the pavilion. And interesting that Roger Varian's fitting cheek pieces to St. Lawrence for the first time. So maybe just to help him concentrate. But that 6 furlong trip seems to be a good trip for him. Again, he's another horse who dropped down from 7 to 6 for the pavilion. But I just liked the way Light Refrain went and won at Nottingham last time. It was Nottingham, but it was soft ground. She handled the soft ground well, and she beat a good older filly in Last Empire, who's rated in the low hundreds. So it was a good performance by her on her seasonal debut to keep on as well as she did. Back on soft ground, she's obviously going to have to improve again, but she's that type of progressive filly who I think could improve again. And William Haggart's horses are obviously in tremendous form. So I think Light Refrain is interesting there at a big enough price.
Yeah, and it was pretty testing at Nottingham that last run, and she looked pretty good as well when going on to score pretty nicely as well. That in the colours of Her Majesty the Queen, Light Refrain, and I will confirm that price for you. A little bit bigger, I think, than ours. 12.0 for that daughter of Frankel, Light Refrain. Win and place, Don, there.
Win and place. Okay.
Good man. Let's move on to the 335. That's the 410 even, which is the Temple Stakes. First race I think we previewed after 4 o'clock for a while. 5 furlongs for this, and Liberty Beach is 3.0. Keep Busy is 4.33. Keomoro 5.0. Lady in France 9.0. Jabberwocky 11.0. Ainsdale 17.0. Declaring Love is 26.0. Right. There's a few shouts for Lady in France. So Don, straight back at you. You can take it away with Lady in France.
Yeah, like you have to allow her run the last day in the Duke of York Stakes, but that was 6 furlongs, her first run back. I'd allow her that. Basically, her run in the Abbey, I thought, was really a very, very good run for a filly. She missed the break, and she just finished off her race really well. She was only beaten a length and a half in the end. She's beaten Keep Busy at York last year in the Filly Sprint Handicap, and yeah, she's probably going to come on for her run at York the last day. 5 furlongs and soft ground, I think, is key to her. She's a filly who likes to go forward. She didn't really go forward in the Duke of York Stakes. I think back over 5, Daniel Tudhope can be more aggressive on her. So yeah, I think she's got plenty in her favour. But it's a good race for all that it maybe isn't up to the standard of Temple Stakes of the past, the ones that Batash won and Profitable and horses like that. But I think it's an interesting race. The fact that Batash isn't in it, I think it's worthwhile digging around. And yeah, I think Lady in France on the ground over 5 furlongs, that's key to her.
At 9.0. And as Don says, Steve, you sort of have to forgive that run last time at York, do you? Or was that just too tough an ask?
No, I don't think it was too tough an ask. I think there was many reasons why she didn't run to form. One of them, she was drawn right on the wing in the stand side, and you don't want to be there. Again, like Don says, it was 6 furlongs. And last season, she didn't run at all well on her comeback run. She was 6 of 6 in a listed race, albeit behind Alestronauti, who's very quick. So many reasons to forgive Lady in France, and I think she'll sharpen up for that. That run in the Abbey was most eye-catching because, again, she wasn't very well drawn. And when it wasn't, I don't think, that she missed the break. It was the fact that because she was away from the rail, those even further away from the rail came right across her and squeezed her right up. And so not only did she lose ground, she lost momentum as well. And you can't do that in the Abbey. And the winner, Wooded, basically came up the rail, and she was right out in the middle, and she was staying on really well at the line. Now, she split Liberty Beach and Keep Busy. I can't understand why she's 4 times the price of Liberty Beach and twice the price or more of Keep Busy. The price is just wrong, especially as she does handle very testing ground. So I think she's got loads going for her. I think people have overreacted in a massive, or the market is overreacted in a massive way to that York run when there's valid excuses all over the place for her. So really keen on her. I think it's an open race because I don't think you can rule anything out. Even the likes of Jabberwocky and Declaring Love have got some sort of chance. But Lady in France is definitely the wrong price, and it's got a really good chance.
Has Ainsdale got a chance, Jonesy?
I thought Ainsdale had a good chance, trained by Carl Burke as well. But then I heard who fancied it, and I thought it's got no chance.
Well done, well done. Yeah, I think it'd go well. Look, I wish there were a dead 8 in here, but there's not. There's 7. But at 17.0 with the form on heavy ground. And, that run behind El Astronaute wasn't bad last time. I know that was just a conditions race, but El Astronaute, he was giving him £3. He's rated 106. He won easy as you like, but not really sure that 5 round Chester is this horse's bag. But this is juice in the ground here, I think will really suit. And it will be very testing. It's a bit of a speculative shout, but I couldn't be that confident around the top 3 in the betting personally. So there you go. One of those top 3 is written by Paul Mulrennan, so I better watch what I say. Now, Adele, I always feel it's very important that you do speak to your husband, because every now and again he crops up with a big price winner. When we asked you about Sherbet, was it Sherbet Lemon? It was, wasn't it?
Sherbet Lemon, yeah.
I haven't spoken to Paul yet. I was like, oh, well. And then he won a massive price.
Well,
go on, what does Paul think about Kay Moro?
He just tried to ring me again. Got the decline button, but I did text him.
Pick up.
I did ask him what the ground was like, and his word was just bottomless. So I think we definitely want to be looking for horses that like a very soft ground. Kayamora she's not been tried on ground as bad as that, but to be honest, I actually think she won't mind it. I don't know if you've ever noticed her when she runs, but she carries her head really high. She kind of looks like she's ungenuine, but I think horses like her who have quite high head carriage, when you run them on such soft ground, it kind of encourages them to drop the head because it's a bit harder for them. And I actually think it might bring out the best in her. It's not a strong race at all. Some of them down at the bottom, they're listed at best, and she's placed in Group 1 against Batash. I think she could, if she runs, I think she could run really well on soft ground. Her family's done well on soft ground. She's run well on soft ground. It's just she's not proven on such soft, heavy ground. She's untried on it yet, but I honestly think it could bring out the best in her.
Okay, Maura then, who is third in the betting, around about 5.0 currently. Let's move on to the York contest, 5 furlong handicap. This is a bit before, but just on Weather Watch, we thought we'd do all tracks together. I thought it was most sensible, just in case anything goes. 5 furlong handicap at York on Saturday. It's pretty open with the 14 runners. I'll run you through those towards the top of the betting. You've got Mondamedge, who is 6.0 currently. 6.5 Copper Knight, 7.5 Pendleton, Hurricane Ivor is 9.0, Count d'Orsay and Mulzim 10.0, and then we are into the slightly bigger prices. Adele, you can lead us off with this.
Well, I did actually ask Paul about Pendleton. He thinks he's got a really good chance. He said he'll absolutely love the ground, so that's a big plus. Well, I don't think it'll be as soft as what it's going to be down at Haydock because they've got such good drainage, but it will be very slow. Ran an absolute blinder at Ascot. That was after a long layoff. Was only beating a nose. Michael Dodd's horses, they're in good form. He had a couple of places at the Dante meeting. His sprinters are doing really well. I love Copper Knight. I managed to tip him on ITV, but I'm going to go against him this time. I'm going to go, and I like Pendleton. I think he's a nice horse. I think he's going to be quite progressive this season. Copper Knight ran really well. I think DC and I found Copper Knight last time as well to complete the after timing trio. But he ran really well. But this will be a different test on the ground. And I'm with you with Pendleton, who we know handles this sort of ground. And I know won over the stiff 5 at Ascot, but I just think 6 just caught him out. And I think testing ground here, a sharp track is no bad thing for this horse. And I quite like where he's drawn in 8 with options as well, because they might just come right down the centre. Yeah, the stalls are bang in the centre. So I thought Pendleton win and place at 7.5 was a fair old shout. And then, so we're Team Pendleton. And then the other two boys are Count d'Orsay, Team Count d'Orsay. Don.
Yeah, look, he was disappointing last time at York, but it never really happened from then. He didn't really travel that well. He got squeezed out a bit 2 furlongs out, so you have to allow him that. But I thought his run before that at Chester was a really, really good run behind Jabberwocky. Jabberwocky was in stall 1 that day, and he bombed out and blitzed them and led the whole way. Count d'Orsay was in 6, and 6 at Chester is a high enough draw. And I thought he did well to go as well as he did through the race and see out his race as well as he did to finish second behind Jabberwocky. He's got form on soft ground. He's got form at York. He ran second in a handicap there a couple of years ago on really soft ground. So while he didn't run well last time at York, we know that he can go at York, and it is as Adele probably know more than me, it is a track at which course form I think is more important than it is at other tracks. And I think his low draw is good as well. I think stall 5 towards the far side, I think that's no harm at York. Look, Copper Knight, you have to respect him. He was great the last day. He's up £5. You think a £5 hike shouldn't necessarily stop him, but he does have to probably improve again. Mondamedge is another horse that I do like. He was very unlucky the last day. He got squeezed out, finished off his race well. Just he's drawn towards the near side in 11. I prefer, just on balance, I think I prefer be on the far side at York on the straight track, especially on soft ground. But I think Count d'Orsay, if you allow him his last run, I still think he's potentially better than his mark of 99.
Adele, I'll come back to you on the draw, just whether you have any, or whether when Paul rides on the straight course at York, whether you think there is a good or a bad draw to have sidewise, or whether it really just depends on the pace in the race.
It does genuinely depend on the pace. Even the Dante meeting, it was on the soft side, and some were coming middle towards the stand, some were going far side. I think it's genuinely in the sprints. I think it's wherever the pace is in the race. But I imagine so they will come up the middle to stand side.
Jodie, do you want to add to your draw thoughts, and who do you like? Well, you like Count d'Orsay, I know that.
Yeah, you want to be drawn where the pace is in most races. The biases are overplayed quite often, because the pace is in different places. But I think if you were given a preference, you would want to be middle sort of edging towards the far side. Count d'Orsay was drawn 14 last time. I don't think that was an advantage in that race, won by Copper Knight. And he finished 15 of 17, and a stack of these are in front of him. But the fact that he got squeezed out, like Don said, and it was a continual squeeze out. He wasn't just squeezed out once, snatched up and lost the... He just couldn't... He was sort of stuck halfway in the gap and had nowhere to go. And his rider, I shouldn't think, blew too hard after the race, because once his chance is gone, it had gone. So there was no point bashing him to try and get into the top 10 or something like that. So he comes in a fresher horse on softer ground. Copper Knight, who's his stablemate, they're both trained by Tim Easterby, is drawn 2. Count d'Orsay's drawn 5. So we'll get a lovely lead from him. And if you go back to his form, like Don says, he's got the track form, he's got the ground. He likes soft ground, and he's got that form with Jabberwocky, who runs in the Temple Stakes. So when he was badly drawn as well, and he finished in front of Copper Knight that day. So I think it's another overreaction from the market a little bit to that last run when there was clear excuses. So I think Count d'Orsay, I thought I'd find an interesting one, but so did Don. You can't get past Don.
Yes, he's one, if not 2 steps ahead the whole way.
I just read Steve's notes. I just read the notes that Steve sent me earlier on.
You can't read my handwriting, Don, I promise you.
Before we move on to Sunday, I do want to point out Adele's clock, because it's been, if anyone's listening on the podcast, Peter said it's a relief to see a clock on the wall with the Roman numerals the right way round. That is referencing the Instagram influencer, I think they're called, who had a clock on her wall with the Roman numerals completely the wrong way around. So you've nailed it, Adele. It's yeah. It's
got one thing right.
You've nailed it. It looks like a huge pocket watch, but I like it very much. Anybody want to add to thoughts on the clock on the wall, or should we move on?
It looks like it could be quite a small pocket watch that's just right beside Adele, as opposed to like way back on the wall behind us.
Yeah, it could be. It could be that Adele's miles behind the pocket watch, was just in front of the camera. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, let's find you some winners for Sunday. We move on to the Irish 1,000 guineas, 3:15 this is, and Joan of Arc, another filly making a step up into Group 1 company, who heads the betting for Ballydoyle. Well, look, they're vying for favouritism between them as it stands currently, so it's pretty tight with 3.2 Joan of Arc, 3.25 Pretty Gorgeous. Fev Rover is 6.0, 9.0 Miss Amulet, No Speak Alexander 10.0, and bigger prices, double figures, the rest of them. I'm going to come straight back to you, Don. Who do you think? Who do you fancy?
I think Pretty Gorgeous should probably be favourite, Tom, in front of Joan of Arc. I just think her form last year, especially on soft ground, like she's 2-all with Shale, and her 2 wins from Shale were both on soft ground. Like she was very, very good in winning the debutante, and then she got beat by Shale in the Moydlair. Then she went to Newmarket and won the Fillies Mile. She missed out on going to Newmarket. I think she had a small setback before then, but the ground probably wouldn't have suited her that day anyway. So back on soft ground, it just, like Joseph O'Brien did say before Newmarket, that he didn't mind fast ground for her, but on balance, her form from last year suggests that she's a better filly on soft ground, and the ground has come in her favour. Like Joan of Arc was very good in winning the Guineas Trial last time. She kept on well. She was ridden prominently that day. She led probably most of the way, and she stayed on well. I think a couple of fillies who finished behind her that day might get closer to her. Fantasy Lady stayed on well after just appearing to get a wee bit outpaced. She's trained by that man Paddy Toomey again. And Sense of Style, Joseph's other filly, she got pretty badly hampered about 2 furlongs out. She was travelling well in rear, and she just got squeezed out. And Declan McDonagh had to take her back. She was actually last with just inside the 2 furlong marker. So I thought she did well to keep on as well as she did. I just think she's probably too big a price, but it's a big ask to see her going and winning it. I think No Speak Alexander is very interesting, and I think she's a fair way overpriced. Jessica Harrington's filly. She won the Atazi Stakes last time. She beat Zaffy's Pride, her stable companion. Shane Foley preferred No Speak Alexander that day. He prefers her again to Zaffy's Pride, who reopposes as well on Sunday. And she's not bred for a mile, but she got 7 furlongs well the last day. The step up to a mile on soft ground, that's a little bit of a worry. She is kind of bred more for 6-7 furlongs, but I just thought she went to the line so strongly the last day that she's got every chance of seeing out a mile. And that was her first run of the season, whereas Staffy's Pride had a run. It's a good race, the Atazi. She beat older fillies that day as well. So it's a good piece of form to take into a Guineas. And I just thought 9.0 or 10.0 was big enough about her.
So No Speak Alexander, and if Pretty Gorgeous isn't favourite, there's a case you think for backing her because you'd have her down at the head of the betting.
Yeah, I think she should be favourite, Tom. I think she probably will be favourite. I think they might come for her once the market settles down a bit after declarations.
And she certainly looked like a filly that was going to improve with a bit of time on her back as well, as opposed to Joseph O'Brien's colt who ran in the Guineas, who was very small when he lined up, who ran in the UK Guineas. This filly's a big filly, so I think she should improve. You mentioned the horse that I've supported at a big price, and it's a bit of a, I don't know, she's a massive price. She's 26.0, Fantasy Lady. Interested, it's not just blinkers on for the first time; it's a tongue tie as well. But I think that's probably just to help her break her on terms a little bit. She was slowly away last time in the race won by Joan of Arc. She is a course and distance winner. That win came out of stall 12 where she sort of swooped wide. She's at a 1 here, but she's a big enough price to support. I was struggling towards the top of the market, to be honest, having put Fevrova up in the Guineas at Newmarket, but then I thought she was quite short here. So I think Fantasy Lady, who should appreciate cutting the ground, is the one for me. Small stakes at big odds. Adele.
I think Pretty Gorgeous's price. I think it's quite fair for her. I think I'll take that. I think she's really nice. I mean, look what she did last year. She was leading juvenile without a doubt. Won 3 out of 5 starts. I was just going to keep an eye on the betting for Fevrova because I would have liked to have had a little place bet on her if she'd been a bit bigger. I think she's quite short for what I would have had her at. But I thought she I thought she ran really well in 1,000 Guineas. They had cheap pieces on that day, which they retain on Sunday, and I thought she knuckled down quite well in them. I thought she showed a good attitude. She's gained some valuable experience, travelling abroad to France and that. And I think she takes her racing well, and I couldn't see why she couldn't run another solid race. I just would like to see her a little bit bigger. So if she does drift out a bit, I think I'll jump on board her.
Fevrova, that is.
Yeah, Fevrova, yeah.
And you suggest Pretty Gorgeous should be fav as I'm sort of reading.
I thought she would have been, to be honest with you. I do, based on what she did last year.
Jonesy, what about you?
Yeah, I couldn't really make head or tail of it, to be honest. So I'm going to sit this one out. I think Pretty Gorgeous clearly has the best form, but slight concerns about her.
Fair enough for the Guineas, which we hope is going to be run tomorrow, but on Sunday, but we'll see because of course there's plenty of rain over there. So I'm just trying to follow the latest, and there's concerns that it may be delayed, but we'll see. Right, let's kick on to has everyone had a go in the Irish 1000? Yes. Let's move on to the Tattersalls Gold Cup. Prices for this as follows. So this is actually the 240. We've got the Dead 8 lining up here, and Broom is 2.25. Tiger Moth is 4.5. KM Pepper 8.0. Serpentine 9.0. Search for a Song 11.0. Then we're into the bigger prices. Don, kick us off.
Yeah, it's a pity Love isn't running, Tom. It would have been good to see her back, but obviously she wasn't going to go for the Arc last year because of soft ground. Wasn't at all surprising not to see her among declarations this morning on the ground. But yeah, look, it's Broom is the one he's battle hardened, race fit. He keeps on improving. He keeps on doing enough. He came under pressure pretty early in the Moorsbridge Stakes last time, but he keeps on fighting for pressure. And 10 furlongs, I kind of thought 1.5 miles would be his trip more so this season, but he keeps on doing it over 10 furlongs. So on the soft ground will obviously bring his stamina into play as well. So yeah, you can't argue with him being favourite, I would have thought. But it's an interesting race. KM Pepper, she's a filly who I think will go forward this season again. She's a very interesting filly, high class filly last season who didn't really get a run in the early part of the season, but then came good later in the season when she won the Blandford Stakes. So she's a filly that I think we'll see more of this season. And Tiger Moth, second in a Melbourne Cup the last time we saw him. He's the horse who yeah, like was so unlucky. Was only just beaten ahead in the Irish Derby when Emmett McNamara rode him, and then Emmett McNamara, of course, went and won the English Derby. On Serpentine, who is in this race as well tomorrow. There are a lot of Aidan O'Brien horses in it. It's not really a betting race for me, Tom. It's going to be an interesting race to watch and see how it goes. Search for a Song as well, dropping back down and trip to 10 furlongs. Maybe the softer ground will bring her stamina into play, but she's a dual Irish Ledger winner, so you'd think that maybe the trip is a bit short for Bess, but Dermot Weld, he's nominated this race from her from a fair way out, so it'll be interesting to see how she goes. I think I think Broome is the right favourite based on current form, but I think it's a race more for watching and learning from rather than having a betting.
Yeah, with Broome at that price, I was very tempted because I thought he'd be odds on, but I can't muster up the courage, given we don't know exactly just how bad the ground's going to be to actually back him personally. Adele, what do you want to add?
I was going to sit out because I was thinking I can't really find anything to kind of pin myself to, but I do think it's kind of hard to look past a Derby winner with Serpentine. He didn't do a whole lot wrong, even when he finished behind Mogul and Adele last year. We know he stays a mile and a half, so his stamina will come into play. If he gets on the front end and we know he gallops, he could be hard to pick back. So I'm just going to have a small little place bet on him. But I think it is, like Don said, it's just a race to watch more than anything and see how it plays out.
It's funny, isn't he? He's rated £6 superior to Broome. And Jonesy loves his ratings, don't you, Steve? But I take that point with Serpentine. Steve, what are your thoughts?
I just thought Broome would be very hard to beat. I think I backed this horse in the Derby, actually. He was only beaten half a length in fourth. And then only ran twice last year, which is fascinating because he was fourth behind Gayeth in the Coronation Cup, which was obviously at Newmarket last year. And then they ran him over 2 miles on Champions Day. And then back to 10 furlongs. And they found his trip at last. So I thought Marlin 2, soft ground. That stamina he's got for further, he clearly stays a mile and a half well. I thought he'd just be very hard to beat.
Fair enough. Broome will be tough to beat, according to Steve, and you have to agree with that, I think. Right, that's our official selections done. We can give you our best bets now. This is weekend best bets. It can be Saturday, can be Sunday, can be wherever you like. Can be from Catterick today if you want, Adele. Who is your best bet this weekend, Donn McClean?
I think I'll stick with Wembley in the Irish Guineas, Tom, for all the reasons we discussed way back when Adele's clock was pointing to 1 o'clock. I think ground will be no issue for him. I expect him to come on from the Guineas at Newmarket, as a lot of the Aidan O'Brien horses have done in the past. The fact that Ryan Moore stays loyal to him, that's significant. His run the Dewhurst last year was a very, very good run on soft ground when the draw and the run of the race probably didn't work in his favour. And he's like Para and Roderick O'Connor, who also finished second in the Dewhurst and disappointed in the Newmarket Guineas. They both came on and won the Irish Guineas. So I think there are a lot of parallels there.
I'll take you on and just go Max Swinney. I think this horse could go off a lot shorter, so I'd be taking a price now and perhaps looking to trade out with Matchbook at some point before the off. Hopefully it doesn't go off at 17.0 and look like an absolute fool, but that wouldn't be the first time. Max Swinney for me in the Irish 2000 Guineas. Steve Jones, your best bet?
Mudge Bar in the 3-year-old grade. Sandy Lane. Sorry, getting my sprints mixed up then. So Mudge Bar, love the grad.
Good stuff. We let you have that one, you see. So that's the sort of guy that I am, Steve. And Adele, your best bet?
I'm gonna go to York, just in case the Curragh abandons, and Haydock, you don't know if they're getting more rain. So York will be on, and I'm gonna go with Pendleton. I think he'll love the ground, and I think the Dodds team are expecting him to run a big race. So I'm gonna stick with him.
Good stuff. Pendleton in that sprint at York. That's it. Thanks, panel. Pleasure as always. Steve, thank you very much. Don, enjoy. Thank you, Don. Enjoy your day. You're there, aren't you, for Racing TV tomorrow?
There on Saturday, yeah. So no. Hopefully it'll go ahead now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Lots. There's really, really good racing.
Fingers crossed. Adele, thanks very much indeed. We will see you back on the ITV screen soon, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely job. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Steve, Don, and Adele. Thanks to those of you at home for watching, and stay in touch over the weekend with how you're getting on all forms of social media, and praise or abuse us should you wish to. That's absolutely welcome as well. Thanks all. Bye-bye.